All right, so this is going to be about the 1.5 from No BS Lures. It's this trap right here. This one is double jaw and outside laminations, and it's got a pan stop. You can see that right there. There's your pan stop. Okay, and it's permanent. It's fixed. Some pan stops are going to be screws with nuts that are adjustable. This one is not. It's fixed at the factory at the height that it's at. So, you know, when you're adjusting this trap, if you decide to adjust them at all, keep that in mind. You can't move this pan stop. So if you were to tweak this thing in such a way that the pan needed to go lower than the pan stop in order to fire the trap, you're not going to be able to do that. So just keep that in mind as far as that pan stop goes. These traps are very well made, very heavy. You know, the thickness of the frame and the cross frame is at least twice of what pretty much any other number 1.5 out there that you're going to find. I mean, they're super, super heavy traps. Really, really thick metal on the levers. You know, nice welds all around. It's got a twin post style pan here in the back. It's adjustable. It's got a nylock washer on one side so you can adjust the pan tension. The dog is thicker than most dogs you're going to get on coyote traps. I mean, it's a super thick dog, so I don't think you're going to ever have any problems with that. Swivel comes off the side. It's not center swiveled, but again, this is a 1.5. Really nice chain. Comes with 2 swivels, one mid chain, one obviously at the trap, and then at the end. And I've added this J hook. So anyway, they're really, really nice traps. Really, really heavy. A couple of things that I wanted to talk about and kind of show you real quick, just so you're aware. If you do want to pick some of these up, you know, maybe just a few pointers, a few little things that might be a little bit different than 1.5 that you're used to dealing with, so you're not surprised. They're super heavy duty traps. I mean, super heavy duty. And when I got these, you know, and I'm going to bring that pan down to where it's just about to go, and it's still just a little bit high of level. And you can see that the loose jaw is very high, right? So, I went to the LKL trapping school and I saw the demo that Kendall did, and he, you know, is not going to be concerned about the way this trap is sitting at all. The front jaw, the loose jaw is high, right? But this trap's going to be set underwater, and he's going to run a high pan anyway, okay? So, I mean, I don't think this trap being, you know, loose jaw just a little bit high and the pan being high, I don't think that's going to matter to him at all, because this is how he would run this trap anyway, with that high pan. Because the way that he's going to set these is underwater, you know, with a hole back here. And all this is going to do, you know, you're going to bed this trap kind of down in the mud a little bit. All this is going to do is force the animal to crawl up and over the pan and push back and down on the pan to get into the hole. Or if the hole is up higher on the bank, you know, it's going to cause that animal to step up on the pan to try to get that height so that they can get into the hole to get the bait. So I think that, you know, the way these traps come from the factory is exactly how Kendall would run them. You know what I mean? I don't think he's going to really do much tweaking at all on these traps. But I know a lot of guys are, you know, kind of concerned that they like their loose jaw to sit flat. They like the pan to sit flat. Again, for this type of trapping, I don't think any of that is necessary. So I'm really not going to spend a lot of time on these traps as far as trying to tweak them. But I did want to go over, if you did want to do that, some things you need to think about. And first of all is that pan stop. Like I said, it's not adjustable. So when you go tweaking on these, you got to make sure that whatever you do is going to still work with that factory pan stop. The other thing is, if you get the outside laminations, and it's really hard to see, I'm trying to put my glove behind it so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But if you get the outside lambs, you can see that that dog is actually touching that outside lamb. Okay, so in order to take this here with your bender, right, and bend it in like you would to lower the pan on a regular trap, you're going to actually cause interference between the dog and that outside lamb. And once you do that, it's a pretty good chance that you're going to get a trap that won't fire. So you got to be really careful when you're doing that on these traps, because I think you're going to run into interference. So if you're really concerned about having a level jaw and a level pan, I probably would order the double jaw but not the outside lamb on these, because again, I think it's going to be easier to adjust for you if you don't have that outside lamb that ends up causing a little bit of interference with the dog back here. So this is one that's, you know, basically fresh out of the box. Very strong springs, very strong traps overall. If you did want to get that loose jaw down, the way that I did on a couple of them, just to see if it was possible and to see the best way to do it, is to basically get the biggest screwdriver you've got, run it right there in between the two holes of the lever, and then just twist that thing that way. Come in over here and twist it this way. Okay, and I kind of tweaked on one of these a little bit, so I'll show you what this one looks like when it's set. This will give you a better idea of what you can have them looking like once you tweak on them a little bit. So this one's been tweaked on quite a bit, and you can see that my loose jaw is quite a bit lower on this one. Still not quite level, still needs a little bit more tweaking, but you could definitely get them to sit level if you wanted to. Bring this pan down a little bit, and it's pretty close to level. Still a little bit high, but anyway. One other thing, I did have a couple of these traps that when I got them out of the box and set them, they wouldn't fire. So push the pan all the way down, it would hit the pan stop, and the dog would still be under the back of the pan here, so that the trap wouldn't fire. And what I did, you know, of course that kind of puts you in a little tricky situation, because you got a trap that's set and you can't get it to go off. And this is how I fixed that. I took the hammer, and with the trap set, I just tapped it on the front here on the pan until I pushed it down far enough that the trap did fire. Then of course you got to open the trap and let your hammer out. But once you know you have a trap like that and you get it to fire, it's a super simple fix. You take one of these trap bender tools, it goes down over the dog. You can see how it's kind of has a little section in there to allow for the dog to be in the way. You just go over the top, hold the trap down, and push out, so you're bending this portion out, and that gives you a little more room for that dog to be out of the way when the pan's fully down and the trap fires. So not a big deal. If you don't have one of these, it's not a big deal either. This thing makes it super easy, but you can do it with vice grips, you can do it with a crescent wrench, you can do it with a pair of pliers, whatever you got. All you got to do is bend this piece right here, this vertical piece, backward that way, and that'll pull your dog back essentially and give it more room to be free of the back of the pan once the pan is levered down. So that's it. No BS, 1.5s for coons and mink. I'm going to run these for mink this year, at least that's the plan. In my area, I am certain I will catch more coons than mink, but hopefully we'll have at least a couple of mink in them, and I look forward to putting them to use. Thanks.